Hey, we're back with another video. First things first, like we always do around here, I want to thank everybody for watching the last video. Thank everyone that liked, commented, and just has given my content a chance so far. As I'm looking at my YouTube studio, we hit 50 subscribers today. When I started this, I thought it would be a while, and it's been a month, and I just want to thank everyone who subscribed, everyone who's watched even just a second of any of these videos. I really appreciate it. To anyone who's commented, to anyone who's left a like, to anyone who's ever engaged or ever watched one of these 4 or 5 videos I have up on the channel, I really thank you, and I hope that this journey continues for a long time. But I'm trying to do a better job of the length of my videos, so let's get right into the topic. Last video I talked about representation and why I think it is done wrong in different forms of media, the two different sides of the main argument about representation, and also a little bit of my feelings on it, but actually a lot of my feelings on it. At the end of last video, as you can see, I spoke a lot out of my frustrations for what I feel are some pretty bad representations of African Americans and other minorities in film, specifically centralizing on the movie Black Panther and movies like the Tyler Perry movies and Coming to America. Black Panther, at least a majority of the film, is a clusterfuck. When you consider the third act, when you consider the fact that T'Challa himself, God bless Chadwick Boseman, but in that movie he's boring as hell. I don't want to see that movie again. And also later on in the video, I addressed the fact that I think that this is a bad way of showing little represented people and minorities in film and in different forms of media. But one thing I didn't touch on quite a bit was how I want to fix that in representation and in media. And well, this part 2 to that video serves as what I would do instead. You see, the thing about representation in media, it's a very touchy subject. The whole reason behind putting people who look like minorities in film, or who are minorities in film, or people who represent groups that are underutilized, underappreciated, and just not seen much in film and in media and in shows and in comics, is to give those people something that they can connect to on a closer level. Yes, it may be a more surface level, especially when in regards to skin color, but it's important for you to see someone that looks like you sometimes. It's important to see someone that feels like you sometimes. It's important to see someone that lives like you. It's important to see someone that carries himself in the same way that you do. And that's all that representation is. So to coincide with this fact, I think that it's very scummy to have a movie that's for representation, or a movie that incorporates different minorities in different parts of the movie and incorporate those minorities as just generalized stereotypes of those people in real life. And part of this comes with, quite frankly, doing research. As a director of a movie or as a show writer, I'm sure that you've never incorporated every single type of human on this planet, and most of us never will. But one thing you cannot do is let the stereotypes that you have and the few friends that you may have that fall into a certain category represent what you put in your film as the average black person or the average homosexual to connect with that type of person that may be watching your piece of media and your form of art. It's important to represent different sides of a community. Yes, everyone has their stereotypes, everyone has generalizations, and yeah, the cultures also help define those stereotypes and those generalizings of different communities, whether it has to do with sexuality, race, where you're from. We all do it, and it's okay to do at times, because like I said with the Madea movies, it makes for good entertainment at times, but not a lot. You see, there's more to races than just what meets the eye or what may be popular. Black people do more than just eat chicken and watermelons, and it's important to represent that in your character. Like I was saying at the end of last video, you don't want to generalize and just say, oh, well, this is what I know about this race, this is what pops out, and this is the most general thing, so let's just appeal to that. No, that's not always the case, especially in a film franchise. You have the room to do that as you're making multiple movies You can incorporate different aspects of a culture or a community in diverse and unique ways, so people from those diverse and unique backgrounds can like that thing. For example, in the Spider-Man Miles Morales video game, a heavy emphasis was placed in the video game on making sure that you as a character felt the same way that Miles does about New York as a city. And you know why that's very important to Miles? Is because New York is his city. New York is a city, and specifically Harlem is a town in New York where it's majorly Hispanic and black mixed together in the city, and it's very important for him because that's where he comes from and that's where he grew up, that's where his family is, that's the culture that he grew up in. And it's important, if you want to get people to engage and connect with the character that you present on screen, then it's very important for you to make those connections very apparent. In the video game, we spend hours and hours and hours just patrolling and going around Harlem and doing things for the little guys, just random people, bodegas, random people putting up street signs, random people looking for their cats, random people putting up art on walls. And it's amazing because you get to feel connected with the city that, although I'm in Texas, for some reason through that game, I understand why Miles is so connected to Harlem and New York as a whole. It's because it represents him, represents the black side of him and his Hispanic side, and how they intermingle with each other, and also everyone else in the city, for them to feel like an interconnected web, or sort of like a family. And it's very important to portray that, as regardless of what art you're creating and what your target demographic is, art is subjective and you want everyone to see it. So it's important to make your art a certain level of universal so it can be accepted and at least respected by the masses. But you want to make sure that you aren't just incorporating things that are generally accepted. You also want to have some sort of unique characterization, some unique traits, and some things that aren't the norm for that race or the norm for that community or the norm for that culture, but it exists because everyone else is unique. We're all individual people made up of our own different chromosomes that create who we are, in addition to years and years of experience that put us in the exact place where we are when we're watching that show, or we're watching that movie, or we're watching that adaptation, or we're reading that comic. It's all left to interpretation, but it's from the same source, and that source has to be created with a place of love and care for that community in order for us to connect with whatever you're putting on screen. My other main gripe with the way that representation is done in media is when things aren't necessarily generalized, but when it's copy and pasted from a pre-existing art form. In the last video, I was comparing Miles Morales to the original Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and how when he was introduced in the comics, he was kind of just a black Peter Parker, and I really didn't want that. This is another form of copy and pasted representation that we in the comic community like to refer to as race bending. Now, race bending and gender bending and sexuality bending, it's been used in other communities before, but when I scroll down on YouTube or in articles and I look at these things written for these topics, it's mainly pertaining to how comics or how different forms of nerdy media like to gender bend or like to race bend characters to try to be more inclusive and play to the people who want representation, and they're just being stupid. And like, as I touched on last video, I think that both sides of this argument are kind of missing the point. You see, with my last point, I was harping on the fact that you can't overgeneralize a group of people because there's still quite a bit of people in that community that are just outliers to what you may know, or just unique individuals like we all are that don't fall into that generalization. Now, in comics, there is some appeal to this, as a lot of comic readers throughout the years are clearly one demographic, but as the years have come by and nerd culture is more accepted, and even in things like anime and things like movie culture and just being nerdy about different things, of course you have to become more up to date and more with the times and become more inclusive and more representative in the characters and the stories that you're trying to tell, and just try to be diverse in it. So to an extent, these things like race bending or gender bending have a place, but for the most part, I'd say that they should stay out for the reason that in comics specifically, minority characters already exist. There are already black original characters that can just get more screen time or that can just get more stories told about them. There's no reason why DC can't pick up Static Shock and just start writing his book. I actually think that he was scheduled for a book coming out this year, or a series coming out this year, or maybe even last year. I don't quite remember. But there are already characters that fit into these minority groups and communities that are just underutilized with these companies in exchange for, oh, we're just gonna make a black Spider-Man, which isn't a problem because Spider-Man is a character that I feel like it's acceptable to do that for, as one of the main points of Spider-Man as a character, not Peter Parker, is the fact that Spider-Man could have been anybody. It just took the heart, it took the will, it took the power for you to, within yourself, say, I have this power that was given to me, whether it be on accident or on purpose, and I'm gonna put it to use. And since that's the whole point of Spider-Man's character, it could be anyone. So I think it's important to stress the fact that it could be anyone by having multiple Spider-Men in different alternate universes. One's Hispanic, one's British, I'm sure, one's black, as we know, and one's a pig, and it's very weird. Comics are weird. But for most characters, like a Batman, there's no reason to have a black Batman because Batman is Bruce Wayne, and there's no real changing that. There's no need to change it. Not anyone can be Batman. Bruce Wayne's rich, and it's clearly emphasized that not anyone can be Batman. That's ingrained in his character. Bruce Wayne has that curse, and he lives with that day to day. Anywho, but aside from these exceptions to the rule, I think that race bending and gender bending characters is pretty cheap for a writer to do, or for a director to do, for especially when you're adapting source material, or you're taking something that already existed and just changing it to fit whatever inclusive agenda you're trying to fit, unless that's one of the points of the character, i.e. Spider-Man, i.e. kind of Superman, as he's an alien and it's kind of self-insert for the most part of his stories. But aside from these guys, be original, or even don't even be original. Just take the original characters that we already have that are black, that are Hispanic, that are Asian, and make them the same level as Spider-Man. That's impossible, of course, now in 2021, as Spider-Man's had a good 70, 80 years of development throughout comics, throughout Steve Ditko, throughout Stan Lee, and throughout Ryan Michael Bendis. We can see that these guys clearly have a pre-established history that leads to their fame that we have today, as I'm sure most of you guys, when you were kids, had something like Spider-Man lunchboxes going to school. Or maybe that was just me. I don't know. I'm a nerd. But like I said, except for these exceptions, be original. And don't take the cheap way out of just, oh, taking this character and let's make him black. No, build something from the ground up. Even if you don't want to do that, take something like Static Shock, which was once loved by everyone, and just bring it back to prominence. Because that's something that was unique. That was something that felt like us. That was something that a whole generation of black kids got to see every Sunday morning, and we loved it. And you can do the same for Hispanic kids. You should do the same for Asian kids, and you must do the same for the LGBT community, and there's no reason not to. The tools exist, just use them. Everyone deserves to be represented. Everyone deserves to see a version of themselves on screen. There's nothing really wrong with that. I hope that you like this video. Thank you for watching. This is the after credit scene. I'm just doing this just because I'm trying out a different format with the videos. When it comes to the schedule of my videos, I'm going to test out uploading them on Saturdays for the foreseeable future. I did a poll on my Instagram. Follow me at Cardiac Kakashi if you want to be up to date with videos, or just see me shitpost about some things every now and then. I did a poll on there, and some of my friends voted. Some of you guys voted that are watching this video. And it was about, I think, like 66-33 split on who watches YouTube videos throughout the weekdays and then the weekends. So I'm gonna try uploading them on Saturday for now, so like they can be available for the week. And so when I'm ready to record, I can have that information available for the people who like to watch it throughout the weekdays. And then for people who like to watch it on the weekends, it gets uploaded on Saturday afternoons, and you can watch it with your regular rotation of YouTube video watching, whatever you do on the weekends. And also the format of the video, I wanted to acknowledge the previous video and the success of the channel at first, and then get straight into the information and my opinions as I'm trying to be more concise with these videos. Last video was just the nail in the coffin, as that shit was 27 minutes, and I don't want to give you guys another video that long, at least not until I get better at this whole YouTube thing. I'm wearing the Rockets cap today because the draft lottery is tonight. Go Rockets. I hope we get the #1 pick. That's my team. So if you're wondering, that's why I'm wearing this. It's kind of random, but it's whatever. I'm just rambling at this point. Again, thank you guys for everything. Thank you for watching this video. For the maybe 2 people who stuck around and decided to watch this. I hope you guys like what's coming in the future. I hope that you guys leave a like on this video, subscribe, comment, share with your friends if you want to, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.